What if a country could take two completely opposing systems, communism and capitalism, and fuse them into a single model that not only survives, but dominates the global economy? For decades, political theory suggested that centralized control and free markets could not coexist, that one would eventually undermine the other, leading either to economic collapse or political instability. And yet, China did something no one expected. It engineered a system where the state maintains tight political authority, while markets drive growth, innovation, and global expansion. This is not just a political system. It is a carefully constructed hybrid one that challenges everything we think we know about how nations develop and maintain power. How did China design a system that breaks traditional rules of governance and economics? And why has it succeeded where other hybrid systems have failed? To answer that, we must go back to the origins of modern China's political structure. In 1949, the Chinese Communist Party established control over China after a prolonged civil war, creating a new political system rooted in Marxist-Leninist ideology, where the state owned the means of production and exercised authority over economic and social life. Under the leadership of Mao Zedong, the government implemented a centrally planned economy where agricultural collectivization, state-controlled industries, and strict political oversight were designed to eliminate inequality and rapidly transform China into a socialist state. This model allowed the government to mobilize resources on a massive scale, but it also concentrated decision-making power in the hands of a few, making the system highly dependent on top-down directives. The limitations of this system became evident during large-scale campaigns such as the Great Leap Forward, which aimed to accelerate industrial production through collective farming and mass mobilization, but instead led to widespread inefficiency, economic disruption, and one of the deadliest famines in human history. This was followed by the Cultural Revolution, which sought to reinforce ideological purity but resulted in political chaos, the persecution of intellectuals, and the breakdown of institutional structures that were essential for governance and economic stability. These events exposed a fundamental weakness. While centralized control could enforce policies quickly, it often lacked the flexibility and feedback mechanisms needed to correct mistakes. By the late 1970s, China faced a critical need for change, and under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping, a new strategy emerged that fundamentally redefined the relationship between the state and the economy. Deng introduced a policy of reform and opening up, which allowed market mechanisms to operate alongside state planning, enabling farmers to sell surplus produce, encouraging private businesses, and creating special economic zones that attracted foreign investment and technology. This approach marked a significant departure from rigid ideology, as economic performance became the primary measure of success, rather than adherence to strict socialist principles. As reforms expanded, China developed what is often described as a socialist market economy, where market forces play a central role in allocating resources, but the state retains control over key industries such as banking, energy, telecommunications, and infrastructure. This structure allows the government to guide long-term development, directing investment into strategic sectors, supporting national champions, and maintaining stability during economic fluctuations. At the same time, private enterprises have become major drivers of innovation and growth, creating a dynamic economy that operates within a framework defined by political authority. The uniqueness of China's system lies in how it blends decentralization and control, allowing local governments and businesses to experiment and compete, while the central government sets overarching goals and policies. Regional authorities often have significant autonomy in implementing economic strategies, which creates competition and innovation at the local level, but they remain accountable to the central leadership, ensuring alignment with national priorities. This layered structure creates a balance between flexibility and coordination, enabling rapid adaptation without losing overall control. At the core of this system is the continued dominance of the Chinese Communist Party, which maintains authority over political institutions, the military, and key aspects of society through a vast and highly organized network. The party operates parallel to government structures, influencing decision-making at every level, from local administrations to national policy, ensuring that political control remains intact even as the economy evolves. This integration of political and economic power allows China to pursue long-term strategies with consistency and discipline, but it also limits the role of independent institutions and public participation. China's hybrid system has enabled it to integrate deeply into the global economy, becoming a manufacturing hub, a major exporter, and a key player in international supply chains, while also expanding its influence through initiatives like global infrastructure investments and trade partnerships. This integration has brought immense economic benefits, but it has also positioned China as a central node in the global system, where its policies and decisions have far-reaching impacts on other economies. The ability to combine domestic control with global engagement is one of the defining features of this model. While the system has delivered remarkable growth and stability, it also faces significant challenges, including managing economic inequality, sustaining innovation under centralized oversight, and adapting to a more complex and competitive global environment. Balancing control with flexibility becomes increasingly difficult as the economy matures and the need for transparency and accountability grows. The long-term success of the system will depend on its ability to evolve without losing the characteristics that made it effective. China's hybrid political system is not a temporary experiment. It is a deliberate model that combines elements of different systems to create something entirely new. It challenges traditional assumptions about governance, proving that economic growth and political structure do not always follow the same path. In doing so, it has reshaped not only China's future, but the global conversation about power itself. So as the world watches China's rise, the real question is not just how this system works, but whether it represents an exception or the beginning of a new model for the future.